Good afternoon. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope everyone enjoyed their weekend. I'm just getting back from the beach. As you can probably tell, a little sunny today. I do like the enthusiasm in the market. Like I was saying earlier, it's always a good week or a good start to a week when we have green lights in the price column of the color guard showing that the market's moving higher. I know the bulls got to like that. The alert should be hitting here any moment, so we'll give just a one. Let everyone get in here. Let's see here. Hello, Ryan. What beach did you go to? I went to North Myrtle Beach. Hoping to go to Charleston next month. But there's quite a few beaches not far from here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I haven't been to Myrtle Beach probably about 10 years. A-Lab, yes, I saw A-Lab. It broke that resistance level. It's off to the races right now. I believe that is one of the stocks in the watch list I have for you today. If not, it might be tonight's video. I've been making a lot of videos since I got back here on a Monday. But hey, I saw a lot of news. I didn't really look at too much news over the weekend, but definitely a lot of news here. Did you play hard? No, not too hard. It was a family trip, James. Hey, Pennywise. All right, see everyone's made their way in the room here. Let's see, is it 12:01? Excellent. All right, let's go ahead and jump in the news stories and just see what's moving the market on a Monday. What is getting the bulls, I should say, enthused? Now, one thing I will say, this steel alloy was one of the biggest movers to the upside when the market first opened this morning. But you can see it's actually down right now, almost 1%. So actually, before we get into news stories, let's see here. Let's see what's going on here. Because I almost could swore, yeah, there we go. We'll take a look at steel here. All right, sell off right into the morning. Looks like we're approaching session lows here as we did before. Price action below the 20-day EMA, and we get rid of value so you can see better here. All right, so you can see the steep sell-off. So what showed as some optimism first thing this morning or pre-market, not so much. I'm glad I didn't do that. Tonight's video on steel is actually going to be on electronic stocks, and there's some good stocks in the list here. It's one of the sectors. Over here on the right, one of the better performing sectors here, about 0.5% to the upside. We see steel altogether is charging to the upside here at 1.41%. It's just the high momentum alloy industry within the steel space. Losing some momentum today, so just make sure if you are in some of these positions, you stay disciplined and you have a plan in place. Smack this. Well, smack this. Why'd you put in the comments section? Everyone can, no one can escape that. Smack this commented, I'm so sick of that Coldplay pick. Oh dear, we all heard about the Coldplay pick, I'm sure, right? LMT, RTX, and KO have earnings tomorrow. Yes, they do. Actually, we're going to jump right into the news stories now because earnings is going to be a part of that. So probably going to create some of the biggest volatility this week. We've got some huge earnings plays coming up here. All right, so first, I do want to throw this out here. We've got a free live online workshop hosted by Ron Wheeler. He's in charge of our education department when it comes to the options segment, right? He does options group coaching as well. Now, if you want to reserve a seat, just go to this link here. Joey's going to put it in the description, but it's just vectorvest.com/OP register. You can see the link right at the top here. So if you want a little bit more information, you can definitely scroll through this or click on the play button here. But you can see the event starts 3 days from now, right? So it'll be later this week. So definitely take out... it's free, right? So if you want to increase your option knowledge, definitely check this out. The band is fine, but everyone was posting that pic from, yeah. We all know Coldplay, well, I think it's good. They're a good band, but they didn't go viral because of their music this weekend. Let's just leave it at that. I don't know if this is the forum to necessarily to talk about that one today. Now, I did want to show you because this is Monday, right? So I want to give you a heads up on what's going on as far as economic data. Today, not much. We got some leading economic indicators. That's not going to move the market too much here. Tomorrow, we've got the Fed Chair's Powell opening remarks at the banking conference. We will be speaking tomorrow, and we saw big banks report earnings last week. So, again, this could create some volatility, whether it's for the banking or the market in general. Now, Wednesday, we got existing home sales. That's probably not going to, create too much havoc on your portfolio, let's be honest. Other than Fed Chair talking tomorrow, you got initial jobless claims on 8:30. So, as long as we don't got a curveball from the initial jobless claims coming out Thursday, looks like it'll be a pretty smooth week when it comes to the economic data. But this is what could really cause some turmoil this week, and that's going to be earnings. Today, we've got Verizon. They reported before the bell. We got Roper, NXPI, the semiconductor. Now, after last week, ASML, Taiwan Semiconductor, went two complete directions here. ASML dropped. Again, that was because they were unable to, really guarantee growth next year due to tariff uncertainty. TSM also reported, but the profits surged, so investors look like they didn't really care too much about the tariffs there. We all saw TSM, just skyrocket. It did pivot back a little bit. It jumped up right at the top of an ascending channel. We'll get into the chart. If you're holding TSM, we'll take a look at TSM. It is in the Quantum emotion paid off my year. I have to take a look at emotion. Our defensive stocks declining right now. I saw in the industry viewer and the sector viewer that they were still marching higher, at least collectively. There's probably some volatility, between, certain ones. I almost got stopped out of A-Lab and the options too. A-Lab was rocking and rolling. Last time I saw it was trading at sessions high after the big gap up. All right, so there's a lot of big stocks this week. We got Verizon. So as far as tomorrow, we got Coca-Cola Company, RTX, Texas Instruments, big day tomorrow, Lockheed Martin. So again, especially if you're holding defensive stocks, right? RTX and Lockheed Martin, going to set the precedent for some of these defensive companies, especially Lockheed Martin, right? It's one of the bigger ones. Wednesday, this is really, against after the bell. So the volatility is probably more so, after trading hours Wednesday or Thursday. But you've got big companies here, big tech. You got Google, Tesla, 2 out of the Mag 7 companies there. You've got IBM, you got T-Mobile, ServiceNow. So a lot of big companies reporting on Wednesday. So come Thursday, you could see some volatility either direction. Now, Thursday morning, we've got Honeywell along with Union Pacific. That evening, Intel. I'm interested in what Intel is going to report. We'll see. I'm not going to speculate on that right now. But again, semiconductors are reporting this week, along with big tech company names, industrials. You got Honeywell here. And come Friday, it looks like it's going to slow down a little bit. Not too big of names here that can create a whole lot of havoc in the noise. Google earnings on Wednesday, I think. It is Wednesday. Yes, it is, Pennywise. It's right here. It's after the bell on Wednesday, along with Tesla. Tesla. We'll see about Tesla, right? I'm hoping Google will bring some good things to the table to kind of maybe help cancel out some of the volatility that I expect with Tesla. But we'll see. Unless Tesla really mentions, robots and autonomous driving, something to get investors enthused, I don't think the numbers are going to get investors enthused too much. We've seen the numbers come out over the last few months here. And I don't think the numbers are gonna, be too positive. But again, that's just my personal opinion. We'll take a look at Tesla as well. I wouldn't touch Tesla with a 10-foot pole. Yeah, I did see. Was it France? Is launching an investigation? Maybe it was XAI or Tesla, one of his companies. And it was a CNBC article, and it says looks politically motivated. That's me. Tesla or Elon still caught in the crosshairs of politics. So a lot of volatility here, and with the company, just trading way above our valuation. Maybe some technical short-term plays. That's kind of where I see Tesla right now, taking advantage of that volatility. But as far as a long-term buy and hold, I think it's a lot of risk and potentially not a lot of reward right now. Is the July high no longer high? We're going to take a look at the VectorVest composite. We'll see if the VectorVest composite has also hit a July high. I mentioned that last week. I think that's kind of was my inclination. Wait for the VectorVest composite to hit new highs. I saw the NASDAQ did. I think it was the Dow Jones or S&P. One of them did. One of the others did as well. We'll take a look at the charts and see if we've hit the July high and all the major indices along with the VectorVest composite. But I don't think we're there quite yet. I know we're close, but I don't think we're there quite yet. So this is an interesting article. Tariffs back on the table, right? U.S. plays hardball on tariffs deadline as EU battles for a deal. So this would be for the baseline of a 30% fixed tariff, says the blocs, meanwhile scrambling to reach an agreement with the U.S., but told that a rate of 15 to 20% would be a total car crash for European exports, right? So we'll see if there's a deal, but There are definitely going to be companies affected by this. People finally starting to realize DRS is a player. Yes, Pennywise, I like DRS. Definitely not going to sleep on DRS. Is August potentially a low month like September? It can potentially be a low month historically. But yeah, as far as, tariffs, looks like it's coming back in the news here, but the market's, marching higher. I know there was the taco trade coined, so we'll see as these deadlines approach. But right now, I mean, look what it's July 21st, was it August 9th? So about less than 3 weeks away. So I wouldn't be surprised if the market got some jitters going forward. DRS is both a defense and quantum computing company. Interesting. But yeah, I've talked about DRS before. Definitely a good company to keep your eyes on. All right, so here's another one here. Treasury Secretary Bessent calls for a review of the entire Federal Reserve. I know we saw, some rhetoric, whatever you want to call it, about, potentially firing Jerome Powell. Who knows? But it looks like these comments are actually intensifying here. Scott Bessent suggested a review of the Federal Reserve that would go beyond the current controversy over building renovations and look at its overall function, right? I don't think the market's really absorbed this. I think they're kind of brushing this off right now because this could be a game changer, right? The Federal Reserve is what controls the interest rates and is a big part of the economy. So I don't know what changes they're going to make, but this could bring some uncertainty if we go down this route, right? So we'll see what happens here. Bessent backed the idea that the Fed probably should be easing with inflation, mostly moderating. So we'll see what happens here with the Federal Reserve. But again, news is coming out as far as the Federal Reserve here. Now, I thought this was interesting. This has to do with Palantir. Their quarter 2 review. AIP is the new CUDA. Do you know what CUDA is? CUDA is the easiest way to put it. It's like the software side of NVIDIA, right? You can see here, Palantir demonstrate acceleration in both commercial and government revenues, deepening DoD collaboration. Now, their earnings is right around the corner, right? So that's why I want to put this on your radar. Q2 earnings on August 4th, where management expects a deceleration in both revenue and non-GAAP markets. That could definitely be bearish for Palantir, right? Because we all know it's trading at a very, very high multiple, right? So if we see a deceleration in both revenue and GAAP, that could put some pressure on such a high multiple here. Yeah, I could see the CUDA AIP comparison. Okay, Pennywise. See, if you're not too tech savvy or whatever, I mean, it's, NVIDIA provides the chips, but they also provide the software behind it here. And this is where, all right, while multiple reversion is a possibility, Palantir stock is a winner as AI inference is at an inflection. I've been talking about this inference thing forever. That's why Micron's been going up like crazy, right? They're inferencing. They're memory chips for inferencing, essentially. Positioning AIP like how CUDA enabled NVIDIA to dominate in the training phase. Multiple is earnings multiple, James. It's not just VectorVest, but if you pull up just about any other platform is going to show you it's way overvalued, right? PE 261. That's what I'm saying. The deceleration, if these numbers, some of the growth, the earning revenue, that kind of stuff slows down a little bit, well, that's probably going to hurt Palantir. The only thing I can see really, that's if it decelerates. The only thing I can really see driving further is this position right here, AI influence as an inflection, positioning AIP like how CUDA enabled NVIDIA, right? So you scroll down, this kind of puts it all together. I was reading this before. Where is it at here? Okay, yep. I'm talking about the inflection point in AI inference, that advanced micro devices AMD Lisa Su talked about at the Advancing AI event. Again, I've been talking about this inference thing. The inference thing is the next thing when it comes to this AI revolution. If you got a company that's involved with inference, if you got a company that, maybe I should do inference video, stocks involved with inference and memory. That's a good one though. But you can see, let's see, Palantir, CUDA, NVIDIA to dominate the first way of the AI revolution, aka the training phase. So the first phase is the training phase, right? Gotta get all the data, gotta train the models. The next one is inferencing the data, right? Yeah, Broadcom. I'm not gonna lie, Broadcom is in the inference play realm as well. Palantir might hit $200 by year's end. Yeah, Pennywise, I wouldn't be surprised if Palantir hit $200. Like I said, the deceleration and growth, those figures, if that spooks investors comes earnings, hey, it might create some buying opportunities. Again, the stock way overvalued, right? You're paying a premium. Not saying it's a bad thing, but just know you're paying a premium right now. Ultra Magnus says, I wish I never sold my Celestica. Well, did you sell your Celestica because it hit your stop or because you were a disciplined investor and your plan told you to get out? Because if your plan told you to get out and you got out and you're disciplined, hey, move on. Find another good stock. You stuck to your plan. But if you just sold it on a whim, always have a plan in place, right? Always have a plan in place before you buy the stock. Because if you come up with a plan after you buy the stock, after the fact, typically that plan is run by emotions. Who thinks that's a true statement? Put a 1 in the comment section if you think that's a true statement. Put a 2 in the comment section if you think it's complete hooey. And again, the question was, if you put a plan in place after you buy it, after the fact, after it jumps up or gaps down, that plan is probably emotionally put in, right? So even before you buy a stock, you look at the chart, you look at the news, you make sure there's a green light, the color guard. All right, cool. We all know that. But make sure you put a plan in place, because if you don't put a plan in place, it's emotional. And I've seen it happen too many long. I'm not a fan of bag holding. I'm a fan of drop the bag, let the other person hold the bag. There's other opportunities out there, right? I've said it before. I only believe in dollar cost averaging if it's to build your initial position. If your position's already there and you're just adding more money to a loser, well, that's not good, right? All right, no twos came across. I'm glad no one thought that was complete hooey. I thought it was a pretty fair point. But again, Palantir, my only concern is just from a valuation standpoint. But I could see this right here. This is what I'm talking about. This AIP compared to the CUDA. That's why I feel like investors are paying for a premium, right? Think about it. If the government, the Department of Defense wants their technology and their software, that means a lot of businesses want it too, right? And I have a feeling this is exactly why. So again, if the deceleration on an earnings call happens and the stock gaps down or drops because of valuation concerns, hey, probably create some good buying opportunities, right? But if that doesn't come to fruition, that could also be another thing, right? So again, if you don't want to hold, if I'm holding Palantir going into earnings, I'm probably going to sell some covered calls with a strike price, way out of the money. So in case it does gap up, hey, at least I can take my profits and run. Or B, if it doesn't gap up and it goes down, at least I have something to offset some of those losses in the meantime, especially for my long-term Palantir holders, right? I bought Palantir at $17 based on emotion. Sometimes it works. Well, Reginald, have you thought about exit strategy? Because trust me, if you're still in the trade ain't over, bud. I don't know if you've ever bought a stock, it goes up, but sometimes they come back down too. And I don't think Palantir is going to hit $17. If it does, that would surprise me as well. But again, just have a plan in place, Reginald. Even if you're already in it for $17, Glenn kind of had a plan there a little bit. He doubled his money. He played with house money, made a couple more bucks, and now he's out altogether, right? So you just got to ask yourself, what is your exit plan here? I'm not saying exit it now by any means. Just get the wheels to turn and think of something to exit with, right? Because if it starts dropping, if it goes to $80, Reginald, you still going to hold it? If it goes to 60, you still hold it? If it goes back down to 50, not saying it will, but just always have a plan in case, okay? Who's looking after Glenn's portfolios while he's taking time off? What you think of VST and VRT? I like both of those, Vista and VRT. We've talked about Vertiv Holdings for a while. It was close to, I think it was undervalued. I think I even talked about it on live stream. That was probably a good one to get into. Kato's still rocking and rolling. As far as Glenn's portfolios, I don't know. That's his personal financial. I don't know. I imagine, I'm not even going to speak on behalf of that. But as far as our AMA portfolios for Wednesday, I probably do need to get his login information, maybe transfer that information over to us. That's true. I probably should do that. But as far as personal stuff, I don't know. That's his personal stuff, Tabula. I'm not going to cross into that. I have 6, well, and hopefully as well, Glenn's portfolio is doing good. I'm sure it is, though. Sure it is. I have 6 stocks of Palantir, and those aren't. Hey, there's nothing wrong with holding Palantir. Amir, we love both VST and VRT. Yes, Bill. And Amir, I like those two stocks. Vista Energy, Vertiv Holdings. Vertiv Holdings, we've talked about it quite a bit there. We'll take a look at it when we get to your stocks for sure. So next one I want to talk about, this Ethereum here, right? The crypto treasury firm is vying to be the MicroStrategy of Ether, but with a focus on generating yield. I talked about this last week and the week before, maybe the week before that. Ethereum I like better. It's the only crypto I own right now because you can stake. I've had Ethereum forever, for a while. You can see they're trying to pretty much corporatize the strategy here. BTM, was it Bit Mining, Bitbit? They've done it, but there's another one coming out here, ETHM. This is going to be, will be trading on the NASDAQ Monday under the ticker. So you have to take a look at this here. Ethereum, though, overall, looks like it is down slightly. We'll take a look at Ethereum here. It's called the Ether Machine. Plans to differentiate with a focus on yield generation through staking rather than simply buying and holding the Ether, right? Because MTSR, MicroStrategy, they're just buying and holding Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't stake or anything. Staking, essentially the crypto word for yield, like a dividend, essentially, right? Solana is better for staking. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with the Solana and the staking thing. Again, if you're not familiar with staking and that kind of stuff, this may not be for you, but there's going to be ETF. There's going to be a stock here. I think you probably, take advantage of that. We all saw, was a Bitbit took out quite a bit here. Here's another stock, Toast versus Square. Toast, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Toast, I'm familiar with it because I've worked in a lot of high-end restaurants. Toast dominates. I mean, just about every restaurant here in the Charlotte area uses their software. It's at least my experiences is on the POS side of things, but I know they do all kind of business software here. You can see, look, taking market share due to its comprehensive and top-tier product suite, while Block offers robust profitability, a strong cash position, and trades at a much lower multiple. So I thought this was too, which fintech company should you be paying attention to? Or either of them, right? I'm familiar with Toast. I'm familiar with Block, so I put them in the VectorVest watch list. See which one's better than the other. Pull up the charts, see if there's any opportunities between both of these positions, Pennywise says, I prefer Dell or HPE over SMCI. Yeah, I think SMCI, everyone was just excited about it because, the accounting irregularities were behind us. Everyone thought it was going to go back to where it was, and it never really happened, right? Hey, I'm not mad if you bought the dip, especially if you're probably closer to $30 on that dip with SMCI. You're probably sitting in a pretty good spot right now, right? But all three of those stocks, Dell, HPE, SMCI, I mean, they're good contenders, but if I want less volatility or less, potential for accounting irregularities to resurface or come back in the news, probably pick the other two. How do you think SoFi do at earnings? We'll take a look at SoFi and the VectorVest 7 software, see what the forecasted data says. But here's an interesting one, going back to the tariff situation here. Jeep maker Stellantis warns of a shock. $2.7 billion loss as tariff bites. You see Stellantis released preliminary estimates for the 6 months of the year shortly after withdrawing its full financial guidance. This was my concern last week I was talking about, right? Companies pulling or not giving guidance based on tariffs, right? It expects a net loss of 2.3 billion euros, 2.6 billion USD amid the early effects of the U.S. tariffs, right? Auto giant Stellantis expects a net loss of about $2.3 billion. Stellantis owns household names including Jeep, Dodge, Fiat, Chrysler. Let's see here. Scroll down. Oh, here it is. Tariff impact. Stellantis said 4 key factors significantly impacted on results through the 6 months of this year. These included early stage actions taken to improve profitability, roughly $3.3 billion pre-tax charges, adverse impacts to adjusted operating income, as well as changes in foreign exchange rates and early effects of U.S. tariffs, right? We also saw the dollar index drop quite a bit. So, yeah, it's gonna hurt them, right? And if they're only going up for the last, the second half of the year, right? If there's not deals made and these tariffs really start kicking in, because I know right now, they're on the low end of things if they do got tariffs. But yeah, this problem can only increase more, and I am of the essence. I don't want to be anywhere near car companies when it comes to this tariff turmoil. I don't mind union-driven auto companies to go under. Yeah, and these companies were bailed out before in '08, and I don't like bailouts. I grew up, I was what, 17, 18, yeah, 18, just becoming an adult. The government bailed out a bunch of crappy companies. I don't believe in bailouts. If they fail, they fail. I do get national security purposes, but for manufacturing, for military purposes, I get that. But it doesn't mean that these companies should just be, floated and run poorly, which I think is a problem right now. I'm not a fan of government bailouts. All right, Pennywise, I would take a poll on it, but I don't like to get political. I think the less government interference, probably the better, but that's just me. All right, so yeah, a lot of news stories, not a whole lot of changes here. A little bit of update when it comes to the tariff situation. The big news is going to be the earnings this week. We got Google, we got Tesla. That's going to affect the broad market. It's going to affect what should I say, the tech in general. And I was saying, Tesla I'm not too enthused about, but I'm hoping Google, because it reports the same day as Tesla, hopefully it just jumps up, great earnings, so that way it can kind of cancel out, in case Tesla does take a pretty big drop this week. But again, we'll see. Are you going to Las Vegas event? I think Tesla earnings are going to be ugly. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think the numbers are going to be good, but Elon better have something good to say about the robots or the autonomous driving. That's all I'm going to play. If there's nothing good there, I think that stock's going to drop. I think it's going to drop. So we'll see, if anyone can, rally the retail traders or rally some support, it would be Elon's comments there. 50 stocks on PNPNF of ETH. Joey, are you here today? Yes, Joey's in the background running the show. It's a smooth operation. Trust me, you would know if I ran this by myself. Probably wouldn't be as smooth, right? All right, let's jump back into the software. I got a big watch list for you today because I put some of the earning stocks on there as well. Tesla's on there as well. So let's take a look at these here. Let's make our way over to the viewers' time. All right, like I said, a lot of news here. Block. Toast, this is how I want to start. These two here, you see Block at the top of the list here. So let's take a look. Block, actually undervalued right now. It trades at 77. We value at 97, right? Toast, way overvalued. Investors are paying a premium for this. Double, right? Actually, I'm surprised it's undervalued with the space that it's in right now. Fintech, it does have exposure to crypto and stuff a little bit. It's definitely not their main business platform by any means. But I do like it's undervalued. RVRS, boom, definitely in favor of Block. VST, favor of Block. CI rating, Toast, though, because it looks like Block not hitting new high. It failed to hit a new high, so it's probably a dip situation. So if you're looking for a dip situation, hey, it's undervalued. So I will say overall, Block's going to win, but the only thing I do like about this Toast, not afraid to hit new highs. You see a CI rating here at 1.48, and look at the forecasted data. I like it. 24 for the sales, 42 for the earnings, both sides. So honestly, I have to look at the chart, but I'm going to go with Block just because, it could be a good dip here. This one's trading all-time highs. Not saying I'm not afraid to buy a stock at a high, but I like a good dip, just like the rest of you. We like good quality dips, right? But I only like a dip when it's uptrending overall, right? I don't like dips and downtrending. That's just a way to stress yourself out. No, I'm only going to get into a dip in an uptrending stock. That's higher highs, higher lows, right? So one of those higher lows, that's the name of the game. Try to pick the higher low. Stay disciplined. If it does roll over, hey, you got to stop in place, right? BTBT, this is the Ethereum digital one here, which is down 10%. I am still of the mindset I like crypto better. I like me, I like just the regular crypto, but if I'm going to play it, I like spot ETFs. I mean, these over here, these, the micro strategies, the BTBTs, they are so volatile and they don't have a direct correlation with the crypto itself. So, it can be news driven, retail presence. But hey, if you want to take advantage of volatility, crypto stocks, definitely not a bad way to do it. I did put in Palo Alto here because of the cybersecurity threats on Microsoft, which, did I skip that story? Shoot, I might have. Now I think about it. But yeah, Microsoft had some cybersecurity threats over the weekend. That was an article I put here. They're looking into it. They don't know exactly the whys and the hows and how much and all that stuff. Still down 30% on Bitfarms. Okay, yes, I am of the mindset I like the crypto itself. Not all the derivatives, not all the stocks, playing around crypto. I like crypto. Now, if you're a technical trader and you see, hey, opportunity presenting itself in a crypto stock and you want to take advantage of some volatility, hey, that's good. But as far as a buy and hold, long term, you're putting a lot of volatility in your portfolio. If you just did Ethereum or Bitcoin, it's going to be a lot less volatile than some of these, crypto stocks or leverage. I know there's a million different ways to leverage it. As far as some of these other positions here, Palantir, we did the story, obviously, overvalued. Look, we only value at $15. So that's my concern. I've been saying that, but I don't fight the trend of the bulls, right? Forecasted data, 26%. I wonder if this is kind of rolling over in the forecasted data perspective. And the VectorVest 7 software, we'll take a look at it here. Pennywise says, YETH is Ethereum ETF that does covered calls. And I guarantee if you put YETH up on a chart and compared it to just regular old ETH, that's probably a lot more volatile. That's what I'm saying. You got to make sure that, the yield, the dividend, the stake, however you're playing Ethereum, is worth the volatility. Or you could just, get plain old Ethereum and just stake it out on Coinbase or something, right? Much easier if you want to yield on just, the Ethereum itself. And Ethereum, its prior high is like 4,500, 4,600, if I'm not mistaken. I see it going there. I see it. I talked about it, I think 3 weeks ago. I called it almost like an industry rotation, but of cryptos. I didn't say Bitcoin's not going to rally, but I think Ethereum's got a lot of pent up momentum, right? Who's joining the block party? What block party? We got a block party? I'm talking about the block party, the little XYZ block party? Anyone trading the REITSMA TQQQ strategy? Pennywise, Souls is the Solana ETF. Yes, I did see that. Alt season starting, just what I've heard. Altcoin season starting. I wouldn't be too surprised by that, especially with interest rate cuts on the table. Again, interest rate cuts put investors in more of a risk-on situation, appetite for risk, right? So I think as long as we're talking about rate cuts and not rate hikes, I think crypto is going to do well. And as long as the government is, adding to the deficit instead of, lowering the deficit, I think crypto is awesome. That's the whole point of crypto, right? Is the mistrust of government. That's the whole point of crypto, mistrust of the dollar and the management of the financial system. I'm not going to get into politics, but that's the whole point behind crypto, right? So I'm not surprised as, this bill passes, that Bitcoin hit a new high. I said that last week as well, or the week before. Not going to be surprised by that. So with interest rates dropping, the government spending more money, hey, crypto's still going to come to the game. Slow moving, hits a new high. I do trade and hold a lot of TQQQ. That's TQQQ. Is that triple leverage? TQQQ, right? Is that the triple one? I'm almost sure it is. Souls is up $1.95 per share. All right, let's take a look at these graphs here. Let's jump in here. First up, we got Block. First thing I can see here, Block, the earnings per share is falling, right? Don't like that. We see the big gap up here. Now, there's a gap to fill. This is going to be my first level of resistance here, which we're not there yet. And when the gap's up here. So this thing might jump up a little bit more. I'd want to see more of a body of this candlestick to the upside here. But you can see it's just rocking and rolling over the last few months. But it's got falling earnings here. So as far as a long-term position, I'd be a little bit more concerned about that. If we look at the value here, see the value also ticking up. Value starting to come around here. So I do like this position overall. But we do have a gap up here today. So I'm going to skip that one for now. I'm not seeing as much follow through as I'd like. Here's Ethereum. Here's the channel of Ethereum. Broke out from its prior high around $29. Has been off to the races. Just hit a new 3-month high. I like what I see here. RT still in the favor of the bulls. Now here's Google. My favorite chart pattern. Price action on the rise. Value on the rise, undervalued. We value the company at $265 right now. Big body candlestick, $189. It's still one of my favorite Mag 7 companies. I know it's not, maybe as attractive as some of the companies out there, but Google, this is easy money right here. Undervalued company. It's a Mag 7 player. One of the more important players of the Mag 7. Tesla's important, but the market cap and everything going on, it really could just be called the Mag 6. Broadcom probably could come in, or TSM, since they have a higher market cap. But still, rising earnings. Look at the earnings here. Coming in, $9.49 right now. Is doing well in my portfolio, my robo-taxi stock of choice. Is the lawsuit still going on? You're talking about the antitrust lawsuit, Ultra Magnus? I know they have one in Europe, and I think China might have opened up one. I know Trump has been pretty adamant. That's one of the reasons why EU is getting slapped with these tariffs, because they keep slapping antitrust. Apple was one, Google, Facebook, and the administration saw that as kind of what would you call that? Like economic warfare, essentially. So, we got tariffs going on in EU today, or soon. Doesn't look like Trump administration is slowing down on it, but we'll see, right? They can only back down so many times until these other countries say, But, so we'll see what happens here. But again, we're approaching that deadline. But Google looks good. Microsoft looks good as well. But the only thing here is just overvalued on the VectorVest metrics. There was a lot of value with some of these stocks. I was talking about the Mag 7 stocks months ago. NVIDIA being a big one. But look, the stock was $400. It gapped up. It's still steady heading to the upside. As long as it stays above that 20-day EMA, as long as the value keeps rising, earnings per share keeps rising, not going to be too concerned about Microsoft right now. Deadline, Smedline. Sorry, I got multiple screens. That's why I turned so I could see your comments. NVIDIA also returned to upward movement. Yes, they did. Can you please graph Toast? Yeah, Toast is on here. We'll get to Toast here in just a moment. But here's Palantir. I'm just curious here. If I use a freehand line. No, that's not going to work. But yeah. Keeps going up. If we do get a pullback, I ratchet up a little bit here. Here's the prior swing low. Look around 147. You got the 20-day EMA just below it. But again, as long as we stay above that 20-day EMA, I'm going to rock and roll with Palantir and keep making profits. I'm not seeing a reason to sell it here. If we get a nice retest on this 147, pivot back to the upside, that's probably the move here, if I had to guess. But yeah, again, the only concern I have with Palantir, look at the the valuation, just flat. It actually is starting to rise now. I know it looks pretty skewed with price on there. The value is at $8. It keeps ticking up. Now it's at $15.70. I do like it ticking up. All right. Shopify is close to hitting a new high and has been in a base for a while. Okay, we might have to take a look at Shopify here in a few. But yeah, as far as Palantir, I don't see a real reason to concern to sell it right now. But we'll say if it breaks 147, look for this 20-day EMA around 143. If it breaks much below that, especially 135. If it comes all the way back to 135, definitely would be getting more defensive. Mr. Chappell didn't like Palantir. Well, Chappell's going to stick to the valuation. I like it based on the value, not valuation, on the technical side, and it's opportunities in AI. I do see it, but I do see it's just trading. What was Seeking Alpha? We had Seeking Alpha. I think it was to a 260 PE ratio. So yes, way overvalued, right? So the numbers have to be phenomenal at these earnings reports, right? Guidance has to be phenomenal. If you get on there and earnings, the CEO goes, well, we're de-accelerizing like the article was talking about on revenue growth and stuff. That could spook investors, right? Especially since they're paying such a high multiple, right? So if it rocks to the upside, hey, is what it is. But if it does pull back, that would be my concern. But again, they're in a pivotal spot. You saw them, how they were just compared to NVIDIA and being a dominant key figure when it comes to the inferencing. And that's a big thing here. And the inferencing is, for lack of better words, we're in the infancy stage of inferencing, right? So a lot of the numbers, a lot of the value behind that is not going to be shown in the valuation here, right? This is just what we feel the stock is currently worth, not, based on, inferencing 2 years from now, right? That's where the speculation and the buying of the premium comes into place. And right now, the speculation is, well to the upside, right? Currently trading at 152. So as long as it stays above that 20-day EMA, I'm going to rock and roll with it. Oh, Pennywise, thank you. What we got here? Please check out Mari. Buffett owns his Japanese trading houses. I've been holding $165. That's Maruy. All right, let's take a look here. And thank you for that, by the way. It's always nice starting off with a Monday with a super chat. I will say this, as far as the super chat, I was in a meeting last week. I don't know if I should be saying that, but I'm going to say it anyways. But we're thinking about doing maybe some kind of fundraiser for Glenn. I don't want to say think, but we are going to do one. Put some ideas in the comment section. I know there's some very smart people that watch this as well, just because, he's obviously out of work, medical bills, things of that nature. We just want to help him out, him and his family out. So if you got some good ideas, I think probably have a meeting this week or next week. See how we want to go forward with helping Glenn out any best way that we can. So any ideas, any help from you guys, and don't start sending me super chats about this right now. Because I think one idea we might have is like a fundraiser day for Glenn where super chats might be, that's just an idea. I'm not sure yet, but if you got any ideas, put them in the comment section. Just like yourselves, I would love to be able to help Glenn and his family out as well, right? And I was at the beach last week. I talked to his wife. No news is good news on that front. I hope to get there this week. And when I do, I will talk to him and his wife and see if I can just give you guys an update, just because, being medical related, I can't just, share stuff, all willy nilly. GoFundMe. Yeah. Post a GoFundMe. That's probably the step one, right? Maybe we do a GoFundMe for him. Thank you for that. That's actually probably the easiest way to do it. Just put the link on the streams. All right. Yeah. So look, I already got a good idea here. I like the idea of helping Glenn. How about a GoFundMe? All right, yeah, a couple people are posting GoFundMes. All right, so we'll add that. I'll bring that to the forefront. That VV Nation is more than willing to help out Glenn any way we can. Okay, I know we've done a lot here at the VectorVest community ourselves. All right, but yeah, let's take a look at this. This is a Japanese company. This was given to me. Oh, where'd it go? Pennywise. What is it? A Japanese trading house. Okay. Japanese trading house. As far as the short-term momentum, you can see that starting to wane here, but look at this valuation. Pretty stagnant, more so on the decline for the better half of a year here, but since April. So for a couple months now, look at the valuation just rocking and rolling to the upside. Earnings per share still climbing to the upside. Let's go back a little bit more, just see what the stock is doing. It did hit that new high here. We got some rejection at it. We need to see this thing tick back up because I don't like this rollover rejection. Now, if it does roll over, probably got a touch right here. You can see a touch from the bottom, touch from the top, gap. So, yeah, worst case scenario. But if we do get a good sized pullback on this position, it's going to be tempted to fill this gap. I have a feeling it's going to be retest. This might be a pivot to retest. That would be, the bearish case, right? As far as the case for the bulls, let's zoom in a 3-month time span. Just a lot of consolidation. So here's the channel. Here's probably the bottom of that channel here for the candlesticks. Got a couple touches here. Bottom of the channel is 190. Top of this channel is 207. If it drops below the 190 mark, I'd get a little bit, again, I don't know if you thought more of a swing trade or buy and hold, but you said you bought it since 165. It is showing weakness. If it doesn't get its act together soon, especially if it breaks below this channel 190, I can see it definitely pulling back. I probably want to fill that gap and retest this level here at 181. But either way, You know, you said your position, I think it was what, 165. Let me scroll back up here. Yeah, 165 penny wise. So either way, you got a buffer zone, right? So we ain't worried about mitigating risk. It's about capturing as much profits as possible, right? So you can see price action below. The hold rating is faltered here. But yeah, I'd look, you know, I wouldn't make too many decisions until I get a breakout on this channel, one way or the other. You know, if it's 190, maybe get a little defensive. You know, if it breaks above here, obviously that's going to be a bullish inclination, right? Let's see here. Mare is the best of the 5 funds. I missed that comment. Let's see here. I created a watch list that stock a while ago. Okay. Yeah, still looks pretty good though overall. I will say, but I just like this valuation, even though it was trading at a premium. And I've said this before, even if a stock trades at a premium, as long as the valuation's ticking up, I like what I see. It gives some justification behind that premium, right? That's the only thing that's really scared me about Palantir, right? And that's why I didn't really hop on the Palantir bandwagon. I don't want to say call it a bandwagon, but it might be. Glenn definitely rocked on that bandwagon. I treat it more like a technical trade, but I see the importance of the company. I just have a feeling you can probably get some better deals probably in the future. I'm gonna hold on to my Mari shares for now. Yeah, Pennywise, I wouldn't. It's not in a position. Yeah, drop below the 20-day, but you're playing. You know, you got a little bit of a cushion right now. Look at this channel. And if it breaks below this, you know, this is where I want to see the pivot here, right? If it breaks much below this, well, then you'd be giving up, majority of your profits. I'd rather just, close it out with making a couple bucks rather than doing all this work and closing out, break even or, at a slight loss. But I do like the stock though. All right, going back to Palantir here. Let's skip to the next one. We just did Palantir. Here's Toast. Look at this. Bottom left, upper right movement just hit a brand new high today. It is trading overvalued territory, but look at the valuation. I'm seeing life in it. It is rising here. Again, Palantir was just stagnant, flat. That's why it wasn't a huge. When I say I wasn't a fan of Palantir, definitely was as far as technicals, but as far as a valuation or long-term buy and hold, it was risky. But here's the earnings per share. They're rock and rolling as well. The stock had about 30 cents of earnings per share to start out the about a year ago. Now we're 83 cents. So I do like this. RT relative timing and favorable territory for the bulls. This is good. It's trading at highs. I like a stock that's hitting highs. Here's Bit Digital. Here's the gap up. We got the breakdown, the gap up here. Price action receding back. I mean, this stock was $4.50. Now it's at $3.43. Now I know Ethereum hasn't moved that much, as far as a percentage. So that's why I say, these stocks are volatile. They don't move like the cryptos. So you're pretty much, adding volatility to an already volatile space, right? That's why I don't really like it. At 342, not really the biggest fan of it right now. If we go to 3 months, we got the 20-day EMA. I have a feeling we might retest it here. So if you want to buy the dip on this Ethereum, yield, staking, whatever you want to call it, strategies, almost like the micro strategy, but of Ethereum. I think you get a little bit better deal. The 20-day EMA coming at 321 here. So if you got some patience, see if we retest it, see if we get a nice pivot off of it, okay? Here's Palo Alto. Let's go to 1 year. Palo Alto is still kind of trading in this range here. I can't get behind. I mean, that's a lot of built up momentum, though. I mean, it's been pretty stagnant recently. I do like this higher swing low than the prior low. Bullish back in the 20-day EMA. This might actually set up for a good run here because now it is above that 20-day EMA. We see a lot of enthusiasm breaking above the zone here of around 195. Fresh buy rating. This thing might rock and roll. Now, we already know it's overvalued, so I'm not going to stick to the valuation here. And honestly, if I just use a freehand line, that's going to be my stop. Easy peasy. Why overthink it? You got to stop. It's going to trail with you. So as the candlesticks, hopefully if they keep moving up, this line's going to keep moving up and eventually catch up with your buy price, probably be around 200 or 201 here. But this looks like a good, easy trade. If you want to give it some patience here, wait to see if we retest this trend line again And if we do, and we get a little bit of pivot to the upside, that might be the entry point. Thanks. I knew it could move fast sometimes, but I haven't been paying enough attention to it. Yeah, Ethereum's up 6% today. It's over 6%. I've been telling you, industry rotation in cryptos. Bitcoin had its run. I swear I think Ethereum's going to run. It's going to hit a new high. How are we liking CRS? Celestica? Yeah. I talk about CRS quite a bit on the channel here. We'll get to it in just a moment. Here's NXP. Look at the valuation just on the decline. The stock was greatly undervalued, but look. So if my favorite thing is value price on the rise, I say this all the time, this is what I don't like to see. Price action fall, value fall. That means both valuation is losing momentum and the bulls are losing momentum. Not good. But right now we hit the low. We're seeing price action rise and we're seeing value taper up a little bit. And look at the earnings per share falter. I don't know. This one's reporting after the bell today, but based off this earnings per share, I can't get too excited about it. Maybe if they mention AI or, anything like that, I hope get those involved. But, as far as, if we look at growth rate and earnings falter, now negative. Sales growth rate, now negative on the decline. Actually, let's get rid of RT since we got earnings coming up. But yeah, I can't get behind it, and just the software is telling me this is probably a risky stock to hold through earnings, Not saying they can't mention AI and, have strong demand, whatever, and the stock could jump up 10% tonight. Who knows? But this is telling me the risk just isn't worth it. Here we've got Bug. This was a cyber ETF for the whole Microsoft hack over the weekend. You can see it's actually, that's not good. Right now, if you're in this, it's not good. Look at retest from the top end, right? Retest. Broke it. Now we're retesting from the bottom. We're getting this wick here, right? This is not what I want to be bullish. I need some confirmation. I need price action to get back above that 20-day to really get excited. Otherwise, I'm going to probably assume this thing's probably going to get another swing low here, especially if that rejection, if we get follow through with it. But right now I'm seeing rejection at that 20-day EMA. CrowdStrike, CrowdStrike was actually going to be in the list today, along with Palo Alto with the Microsoft story, but I just put an ETF to kind of track the space overall. But yeah, CrowdSpace, I could see CrowdSpace doing well. And Microsoft getting hacked is going to bring more enthusiasm, into the cyber. It's a logical play, right? So that's why I wanted to mention it for you. If there's any, news coming out, developed, because it was early in the CNBC article I had, there wasn't a whole lot of information on the who's and what's and all that stuff. But as information comes out, if it was a really bad hack, that could help push some of these cybersecurity stocks up a little bit this week, right? So, let's call it what it is. Here we've got Verizon. They reported this morning. You can see the gap up here, showing weakness around this 20-day EMA. But gap up, full body candlestick, back above. Look at the valuation, though. $55. Earnings on the rise. Growth rate. See here, 11%, sales growth rate, 2%. Yeah, and it's Verizon. They probably pay a little bit of a dividend as well. So if you're thinking about a dividend stock to add to your portfolio, this might be a good one here. Greatly undervalued. If we go to a year chart, pretty stagnant, right? So you just got to look at the dividend. I'm not, and we're kind of, where are we at here? There's the high end. This is the low end. Right in the middle. Right? So if you want to get in the middle, hey. Otherwise, if you got some patience, you want to try to get on the lower end of things, can't be mad at it. But still, looks like a good dividend strategy. Even with everything going on this year, the stock's still holding its ground. Let's see here. Let's go down. We got Tesla. This is my resistance level here. You can see we're approaching that now. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but if the news is bad on Tesla, we could get a huge gap down. We could be in this zone right here in no time, 283 to 267. If the news is bad, this is where I'd like to see the bulls come in and hopefully, save the day for Tesla. We shall see, but Tesla's a wild card. If you look, forecast earnings per share on the decline, growth rate and earnings decline. Look, it's all negative over here. Sales growth rate. So this isn't, the pretty numbers we saw with Tesla, a year ago, right? So just be careful. Pennywise, Microsoft getting hacked as a company that offers cybersecurity is worse than Crowd's hiccup last year over the update. Oh my God, I forgot it was CrowdStrike and it did affect, it was Microsoft, right? That affected? Oh my God, I forgot about that. I did a story on that too. Man, So yeah, we'll see what happens here. Ethereum up 125% and Bitcoin up 38% over the last 3 months. Yeah, I think Ethereum is marching to a new high. And the prior high, Bill, or someone could put that in the comment section, but I think it was like $4,700. So there's some room to move to the upside. Ethereum's got a lot going for it. And right now, think about it. If the whole thing was, these treasury, I guess what you call that, kind of a treasury blueprint of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does not generate a yield, does not generate contracts. Ethereum actually is they have contract lock boxes. There's actually applicable uses of Ethereum that many people don't know about. That's why I like Ethereum more. That's why I own Ethereum. I don't own Bitcoin. I don't talk crap about Bitcoin, but it's just what I own. Ethereum's all-time high. Yep, 4,800. Yep, I own Ethereum. So I thought it was about that price. I think it's going to go back up there. I think Ethereum and Solana are great commodities to hold. Yes, Pennywise, I do agree. Because they have different layers. They could tokenize things, they NFT things. Bitcoin is just different than those two. Bitcoin is just Bitcoin. Solana and Ethereum have like whole ecosystems involved, right? So just keep that in mind. How many stock picks can we get today? I don't know. It depends how good you boys and ladies are. How many times you hit that comments or that like button, not the comment section, the like button. What time is it? 12:55. All right, we got to roll through these. Holy moly, we're gonna get some stock picks for you. Sorry, we're just chatting it up here. All right, we got Stellantis, right? This was the tariff article. Look at the valuation. It was at $14. Now it's shy of $11. The stock, $14. Now shy of $10. Look at everything on here. EPS on the decline. Growth rate decline. Sales growth rate decline. Do we see Tesla? Everything was declining, right? So I don't want to be in car spaces right now with this tariff thing going on, especially with Canada and the United States. Canada's huge when it comes to car manufacturing. I'm sure most of us know that. So I'm avoiding this space like the plague. I can't tell you what to do, but if you listen to me, that's what I'm going to say. Ryan, have you looked at A-Lab big move out of the base? All right. How many comments, how many likes do we have, Joey? Let's go ahead and get to it. Let's get some stocks. So we got to roll. Customer picks midday. All right. Likes here. All right, you get 7 stocks. First 7 stocks I come across as of right now. Boom, 7 stocks. We got APH, COR, SLV, A-Lab, IDCC, Hood. I imagine Hood, I haven't looked at it today, but I imagine with Ethereum up, I'd be surprised if it wasn't up as well. We got Meta, MU. All right, well, you got an extra stock today. Hope you're feeling lucky. Got an extra stock. The only stock said Hood, the one that I said. So apparently the crypto enthusiasm isn't, maybe it's not the Bitcoin news. I know Ethereum doesn't garnish as much attention as Bitcoin, but you see Hood is the only stock down today. Astera Labs, A-Lab up 18%. And I'm pretty sure A-Lab was on a video I did last week. Meta up 1.47%. Other big mover, silver. I like silver. And actually, while we're taking a look at silver here, we're going to look at gold real quick. We're going to do the miners, since most of the companies you guys invest in would be the miner companies, unless you're doing the spots. Let's see here. As far as big movers, be those. Let's see here. What's the best long-term price appreciation stocks here? We got Micron, Meta, Sensora. Sensora looks good. Undervalued too. Price $293, $387. If you haven't looked at Cencora, definitely take a look at that here. It's in a downtrend right now, so it might be a decent dip. Let's take a look. Forecasted data. A-Lab, highest on the sales growth rate, highest on the earnings growth rate, up 18% today. I can see why investors are enthused. Let's take a look at these graphs here. All right, so you can see Micron hitting my support zone here. We've got to find level support rather soon. We could be getting in trouble here. The next support, probably around these touches here. Yeah, about 110, so we're getting close. But you see the pullback, see it broke the 20-day EMA. If your whole thing with Micron was just to play this swing trade, well, guess what? That swing trade's out. So, protect those profits. Otherwise, if you're thinking the buy and hold, maybe throw a 40-day or 200-day, but it looks good otherwise. Look at value still rocking and rolling up $200. Only trading at 114. Rising earnings, rising growth rate. Only thing faltering is sales growth rate. But look, still says at 37%. I like this stock overall. But with the pullback here, I gotta see some optimism here soon. Otherwise, I'd be getting more defensive on Micron right now. Here's Meta. Cross below. Looks like it's using that 20-day EMA as support here. We haven't utilized as level support in a while. We see it broke out here. One retest. So this would be the next real retest situation here. If we go to a 1-year chart. But look, still undervalued. Still strong buy rating. Earnings are rising. Growth rate, sales growth rate, double digits across the board here. Even though they're faltering, I do like price action on the rise, value on the rise. Still really good. As far as a pivot point here, I wonder if it was this pivot. No real pivot point. But yeah, I just want to see it stay above that 20-day EMA. So if this didn't scare you and you're still holding Meta, I wouldn't sell it right now because it looks like the bulls might put it back into, well above that 20-day EMA. But if we get back to that situation where we're back below the 20-day EMA, again, if you're swing trading, protect those profits because a lot of these stocks have just been on a run, right? If you're a long-term investor, still looks good overall. This is a beautiful stock. Lower left, upper right. It doesn't really have a whole lot of momentum, so you can see the 20-day EMA doesn't really pan out too well for this type of situation. But look, value on the rise over the last 12 months, price action on the rise over the last 12 months. I like what I see here. Rising earnings, growth rate, sales growth rate, double digits, positive numbers here. So I do like what I see. As far as this, no. Let's go to 6 month. Freehand line. So we did just break this trend line. So this optimism we're seeing today could just simply be retesting this trend line. So the next candlestick or two, the next day or two, if we don't get price action above this trend line here, we're in a downtrend, right? We broke this upward trend line, especially if we get a new swing low. So just be careful. This one could be rolling over, right? Could present some buying opportunities in the future. But right now, if you've been rocking and rolling with it, I just want to give you a heads up. It did break this trend line. We could be pulling back a little bit, okay? Here we've got Hood. Ooh, indecision right at the high here. You see the doji candlestick, big upper wick, big lower wick. Breaking out to the downside of Friday's wick here. 3 still above the 8, still above the 20 days, so I'm not going to be too concerned here, but just be careful, especially I'm going to put a level probably around here. We break around 100, and if you get a little bit more wiggle room, around 93. So we get back in the zone. See the 20-day EMA here. If you missed Hood, if you're thinking about getting into Hood, this could be the ideal dip, right? Again, I only believe in a dip and an uptrending stock, right? And that dip has to be disciplined. Not just buy it all willy-nilly without a plan. But that would be, my scenario for the bears, essentially. If we went back here, this could create a buying opportunity. But if we broke below the 93 level, I'd be getting a little bit more defensive here. Or just know that the bears are starting to take charge. Here's A-Lab. Look at that. Big breakout here. Broke above my resistance zone completely. Full-bodied candlestick. Still trading at session high. The stock's just overvalued. The earnings per share looks good. And look, the earnings growth rate, sales growth rate were the highest in this entire list. So I'm not surprised investors are willing to pay premium. Now, if you missed on this, hey, I don't blame you if you don't want to jump into a stock that just went from 100 to 120 overnight. See, if you have some patience, look for a retest around 109, okay? That would be my retest level. Here's APH, Amphenol Corp. Still rocking and rolling to the upside. Look at that. Another high. 3's above the 8 and diverging away. That means momentum's picking up. Also, look at the valuation picking up here. Valuation coming at $63. Stock is overvalued, but I'm seeing life in that valuation. I like it. Rising earnings, rising growth rate, rising sales growth rate. I actually like this company overall. I will say I like this overall. As far as the swing trade, yeah, it's overextended. We all know that. If you have some patience, maybe in the future, if it does pivot to the downside, obviously my first pivot level here, probably about $100 even. Next one, probably around 95 to 100. See if we can catch support around there. But right now, momentum's to the upside, so I'm not going to fight it. Here's Interdigital. This is a cellular company. Lower left, upper right. You see, look, I had a little trend line here. Let's just extend it. Still above this trend line. So as long as it stays above it, as long as above that, we're flirting with it right now. So keep that in mind. We are flirting with it. But this stock's currently trading at 227. If we lose the buy rating, maybe pay attention a little bit more to this position. But right now we've got the buy rating, rising earnings, growth rate, sales growth rate, mixed bag here. 20% positive and 20% negative for sales growth rate. So still a good company overall. All right, so the Spider Gold, look at, just rocked up just above that 20-day EMA. I like what I see there. I did talk about this when I looked at gold, the sector. Gold was hitting its long-term trend line, creating some buying opportunities potentially in gold. Looks like that pivot to the upside just occurred over the weekend. And I'm not surprised. Again, they're talking about changing the Federal Reserve, tariffs, things of that nature. That's going to push things like gold higher, right? We remember the tariff playbook at the beginning of the year. What was the winner? Gold, right? Or foreign entities, right? Foreign banks, foreign ETFs. As we approach that, I'm not going to be surprised if that is the case again, right? But we shall see. Don't sleep on the gold. I'm actually going to show you a gold chart. Silver, look at rocking and rolling today. I'm telling you, don't sleep on these commodities right now. Full-bodied candlestick, 35.42, well above the 20-day EMA. Fresh buy rating here. This is what I want to look at here. This is where we're going to end on. We had industry. Mining. Take a look at gold real quick. There it is. Yep, there it is, right? Look at that. We approached it. Didn't even get to retesting it, really. This today really diverged us back above it. So if you're thinking, hey, maybe you want to buy a little gold going into platinum, might also be worth a look for precious metal. I think any precious metal, in general, platinum, copper, especially the rare earths, the antimonies, the galliums, the germaniums. I think commodities in general are going to do well over a tariff situation, right? Again, I don't have no crystal ball. We already know there's a name coined for it, the taco. I don't know what's going to happen, neither do you, but definitely I would be putting the old, tariff playbook, maybe brush the dust off it. I know it's been a couple months since, while tech and everything else has been rallying, but we might find ourselves in that same situation from the beginning of this year. And actually, yes, let's take a look at MP, UAMY. Just want to see what these rare earths are doing here. Okay, not too much. A little bit down there. Let's see what UAMY is doing here. 371. This was the breakout I talked about last week. I did close this position. I forgot what I closed it at, mainly just because I went to the beach. I did close this position, made a couple bucks here in the contest portfolio. But yeah, still down day today. So there might be news out, China. Who knows? But yeah, as far as the gold, the silver playbook, might want to brush that off a little bit here. Let's go back to the home page. All right, major indices still in positive territory here, rocking and rolling to the upside. VectorVest Composite up 0.38%. I like what I see here. I really do. Just a heads up, tonight's video, it's on electronic stocks. There's a couple of the big names in there. There's 10 of them. A couple of the big names like Broadcom, TSM, and NVIDIA, which a lot of you are familiar with, obviously. Do chart analysis on those. But a lot of the other stocks are names that I don't really hear too much in the comments section, right? So just want to put that out there for you. There's some good stocks, especially if we get another, push higher in the market. But again, have your head on a swivel because a lot of things can change, after the July. Oh, wait, July high. That's what I wanted to look at. Duh. VectorVest Composite. We are still very, very close to that July high. Not quite there yet. If I just do like, was it IXIC? The NASDAQ is. So you can see the tech-heavy NASDAQ hit high, but the broad market just not there yet. So we'll see. So we've kind of hit a halfway high, right? Some of the major indices. Otherwise, for the broad market, not quite there yet. Ryan, ETH, honorable mention pick despite me being annoying. Bill, there's no reason. The stock's up 6%, 7% today. I'm still of the mindset and I can't look at what I want to within VectorVest because you got to go back to 2020, 2021, bring in the prior highs, right? That's where we can find some resistance, some pullbacks here and there, but I still think Ethereum's going to be on the march for a new high in 2025. All right, everybody, it's been a good session to kick off of Monday. A lot of big news, a lot of big earnings. Tomorrow, no live stream. Wednesday, Ron was supposed to be on today. Maybe we could try to get him in here later this week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday stream. But I'll be here all week, so won't be missing any streams. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful afternoon. Enjoy the enthusiasm we're seeing in the market here. But again, MTI is still retracing from those high levels. Still have the July high situation, so just keep your head on a swivel. But right now, we are seeing that optimism play out in the market. All right? Now, you guys and gals, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Check out tonight's video, 6 p.m. Other than that, I will see you Wednesday for afternoon market action. Have a good afternoon.